The European Union has led the world in AI regulation with the AI Act, which passed this summer. This sets the ground rules for AI use across the European economy, including in financial services. Complying with the AI Act will be a major theme for financial firms in the coming years. So I'm very pleased to be talking with Yordanka Ivanova of the European AI Office about the AI Act and its impact. The AI Act is now law. What happens next?
Indeed, now we have the AI Act, which entered into force on the 1st of August, and there are a lot of steps we as the Commission and the AI Office are taking to help implementation of the AI Act. We'll have to adopt guidelines to facilitate and give legal certainty, how to understand certain important provisions, for example, the definition of AI system or the classification for high risk, and also will support development of standards, European harmonized standards, to actually facilitate providers and give them also clear tools what they have to put in place to comply with the requirements for high-risk AI systems. And on the top of that, of course, awareness raising and now working with all the stakeholder community, businesses that will be affected is very important for us. So that's why we have also launched a specific initiative for this, the AI Pact, and we encourage all companies to join and prepare for the implementation.
We at KPMG have consistently recommended that firms invest in their risk management and governance to ensure their AI is safe and trustworthy. And in financial services, we've seen a lot of attention to AI use cases classed as high risk, such as credit scoring. But the rules for high-risk AI will only apply from 2026. So what should financial firms be doing now?
Well, indeed, you're fully right. We have a transitional period of 2 years. The rules will apply as of 2nd of August, 2026. And I would just like to clarify that for high risk, there are only 2 use cases in the financial sector: assessment of creditworthiness of natural persons and credit scoring, and also insurance in health and life in relation to the risk assessment and pricing. So there are very limited use cases compared to all the variety of applications that are currently even at use in the financial sector. And these have been really assessed as the one posing significant risks, where mitigating measures and guardrails is important to be put in place already in the beginning. So companies in this transitional period, those that will be subject to the mandatory rules, we really encourage to start preparation to implement the requirements early in advance, indeed by identifying first whether they are actually using AI for these high-risk purposes, but also preparing internally their processes, identifying already how to comply with the requirements.
And there's also been a lot of attention to AI use cases that are not classed as high risk. So for example, at KPMG, we've worked on projects with clients on chatbots to assist bank staff or AI tools to analyze new regulations. What do companies need to think about when they're dealing with low-risk AI use cases?
Indeed, the AI regulation follow this risk-based approach, but there are also certain rules that could apply in other specific applications, in particular those that are interacting directly with people. So that's quite relevant for chatbots, for example, where there are transparency requirements that require all chatbots, AI systems interacting directly with natural persons to identify themselves as such. There are also requirements for certain AI-generated content, in particular deepfakes that can resemble real people or that can really cause misinformation and deception. And then deployers of those systems will also have to indicate that the content is generated by AI, and there are certain obligations also for the providers of those systems that are building them, so they can also implement technical solutions to enable such detection also later on. And there are also, just to mention, some prohibited practices in the AI Act that are on the top of the risk pyramid, because there are, for example, certain unacceptable social scoring practices when people should not be evaluated based on data that is not related necessary for the purposes, and where they could be significantly harmed. And that can be also relevant, or for example, that they should, companies should not use biometric recognition technologies to infer sensitive categories of data, like, for example, racial origin and others. So it is important indeed to understand the AI Act, also the overall framework. We are preparing these awareness activities also for companies in the AI Pact, as said. And for also other low-risk applications, we also promote trustworthy AI and voluntary applications of the good practices, for example, some of which, like risk management, for example, or data quality and others.
And can you say a little bit more about generative AI and how the rules there might impact financial firms?
Indeed, that's very important. As I mentioned already, there are specific requirements for transparency for generative AI systems like chatbots that are directly interacting with people, or for the AI-generated content. But in addition to this, there are also specific rules envisaged in the AI Act for the models, the general purpose AI models that are capable, like large language models, that are powering many downstream applications. And these rules aim primarily to enable downstream providers who want to build specific applications based on those models to really comply with the AI Act. For example, for high-risk AI systems, to have documentation, relevant information for how the model has been built. So these rules that will apply for the providers of those general purpose AI models that are placed on the European market will actually facilitate a lot, we believe, in Europe, the uptake of this very important innovation technology. So many businesses can innovate and develop their own applications. In addition to these transparency and documentation rules, I already mentioned that providers of those models will have to keep as documentation and also provide to downstream providers. There are also second-tier obligations for the most powerful models that are posing systemic risks on the market. So there is a threshold to first identify these models based on their computational power that should be quite high. But there is also possibility in the future to identify and these kind of systemic risks for the internal market based on more diverse criteria. So the future AI office that I'm also now representing, once the rules become enforceable, will also have key role to identify and also to monitor and also audit these models posing systemic risks. So we try to already early upstream try to mitigate those risks and actually facilitate a lot the work for downstream providers, but also reduce their exposure to risks.
Going to have a busy few years coming ahead, I'm sure. Yordanka, thank you very much.
Thank you.